Hey everyone, in this video we will be talking everything first trimester. My experience, the things that worked, things that didn't work, the things that some of my mom friends advised me about, and lastly I will be giving you some tips on what to do in your first trimester. So my first trimester,
Let's talk about it.
it was tough, it was hard. So first things off, right? I take out the IUD in March.
Yep.
And if you watched our previous video, we didn't think we were going to get pregnant so soon. Mm-hmm. We ended up getting pregnant about a week after we got the IUD removed.
Yeah.
But we didn't find out until almost a month later.
Correct.
Right? So looking back, I can recognize some of the symptoms that were new to me, but I interpreted them differently. Mm-hmm. For example, the first symptom that I had was becoming overly emotional. Short little story, for the viewers, my mother passed away a few years ago, and I visit her grave every once in a while, right? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't shed a tear, I do, but I'm not that type of person that bawls my eyes out when I go to the grave. When I bawl my eyes out, it's usually at home or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that day I went and I literally cried for like an hour nonstop. And I'm like, oh, I miss my mom, which was true. I do miss my mom. But at the same time, it was, oh, I'm probably getting my period soon, right? Because I haven't had my period in the 5 years that I had my IUD. And so to me, it was like, okay, here comes my PMS. All right, cool. And so that was my first symptom. And then I didn't have any other symptom until after we found out.
You know what I remember? I remember that after we found out, right? I remember that we hoped, and it seemed we were like, oh my God, this is going so well. You were like, I have no symptoms. I'm normal. And then you started researching and you read that, well, there's some women that have no symptoms. Maybe I'm going to be one of those lucky women that have no symptoms during the pregnancy. So do you remember kind of like what was the first symptom that other than being emotional, what other symptoms did you start experiencing during your first trimester?
Yes. So now that you say that, I remember that we were also, we have a personal trainer, and I was getting really deep into weightlifting. Mm-hmm. And so weeks prior, before getting pregnant, I was getting stronger. I was increasing my deadlifts 10 pounds every month, and I was making progress. And then out of nowhere, I would go and I would pick up the weights. I would pick them up, but at the same time, I'm just like so exhausted. I'm like, yo, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And then Nick would be like, oh, your body's probably just tired because you've been gaining so much weight in your deadlifts. So, that's just some type of fatigue.
Yeah, because you were breaking personal records like every week.
Yeah.
You were going up in powerlifting, like deadlifts, like every week. So he was trying to say, oh, you're recuperating from all that.
Exactly. But it was just like literally at the gym, I was like, why am I always tired? And then after we found out, because those symptoms were also happening prior to us finding out. But then after we found out, the fatigue became extreme. Mm-hmm. Like you remember, like I was always snapping right after work. I stopped going to the gym because I couldn't handle it. Because I'm like, I am so tired. And it's crazy because as women, we don't really talk about our first trimesters. Because there's the taboo of, what if I miscarry? I don't, and if you miscarry, you don't want to have to go back to each person you told and tell them like, hey, never mind, I don't have a kid. Like,
any other symptoms that you experienced during that time?
Yes, a lot. The usual vomiting, the morning sickness that ramped up so fast.
Yeah.
so fast. I learned, with my own body, I recognized the earlier I would wake up, the stronger the morning sickness would be. But the earlier I woke up and threw up, the least likely I was to be sick during the day.
Interesting.
Because, for example, like you said, most of my schedule is always waking up 6:30. This one specific day, I was being trained by a coworker, and their schedule started at 5 a.m. Just an hour earlier. So I had to get up an hour earlier, and I remember like around 6:15, I'm like, I don't feel so good. And they knew I was pregnant, and then they were just like, okay, just go do your thing. But the rest of that day, I felt fine. But when I was waking up at 6 and I was holding it in, I would be sick for the rest of the day, like until maybe 2-3 o'clock.
Did you just wake up one day and you were nauseous, and then you were nauseous for a while, or did it start slow? Do you remember at all? Like, did it ramp up slowly? Like, how did it happen?
I think it literally just happened one day, and then it kept going until the 4-month mark. So we found out at 1 month, and then I don't know, a week or two after that, I just remember I woke up and I'm like hold it in, because I hate throwing up, so I always held it in, and I was like, I can't hold this in. So I closed the room door, I closed the bathroom door so you wouldn't hear, and then I threw up, and then since then it was every single day until month 4.
Did you start Googling like how to handle these things? Because there's probably people that are gonna find this video because they're looking for things to make it easier during the first trimester. What was your first step? Where do you start looking? What were things that you tried?
On Google, it says eat bland foods, don't eat things that are over seasoned, don't eat spices, avoid acids. So I have a best friend who knew. She was one of very few people who knew. And by very few people, I mean like our family and her. Like, you know who we're talking about. So, and so I asked her, I was like, hey, like, what did you do? Because this morning sickness is kicking my butt. And I knew that she had a lot of morning sickness with her last pregnancy. So she was like, oh yeah, have pretzels. And I'm like, pretzels? Because it's bland. It's kind of like a cracker. So I was like, okay. And you actually went out and bought me the pretzels. I had it the first day. I was fine. And then I had it the second day, and then I threw up. And then I got scarred. So I didn't eat the pretzels ever again.
So no more pretzels after that.
No more pretzels after that. But yeah, the only thing that really actually worked for me that Google said was, the bland foods and the crackers, eating saltine crackers. Saltine crackers became my best friend. Oddly enough, Google also said, and some people also told me after the fact when they found out, that to not have acidic foods, acidic drinks, but orange juice calmed my nausea.
So instead of not helping you, it actually helped you.
Yeah, for some reason, orange juice helped me. I always had my orange juice with ice, and it always helped me. So I would have at my desk a cup of orange juice, my saltine crackers, and I just go at it all day long. Orange juice and apple juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was also told, oh, have ginger ale. No.
It did not work?
Ginger ale is soda, okay? It does not cure your stomach. Like, no, it did not work. I drank it, I threw it up. Another thing that they recommend you have is Gatorade. Listen, before I got pregnant, me and Tony would go to CVS
Yeah.
almost every other night. Or, okay, not every other night, but weekly to go get me a Gatorade.
Which, by the way, we should have gotten smart and buy it in bulk. But keep going.
Yes, which we could have bought in bulk. But anyway, as soon as we got pregnant, like, I couldn't handle the Gatorade. Like, that came up even faster than the ginger ale.
Jeez.
So ever since then, my first trimester, like, now I could have a sip of ginger ale, I'm fine. I have yet to go back to Gatorade.
What were the things that you were able to keep down during the pregnancy? What besides the
crackers?
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I was able to keep down pizza. Somebody had mentioned that to me. I can't remember who it was, but someone had told me that during their pregnancy, they would eat pizza.
Interesting.
And I was like just thinking about it, because that's another thing. In your first trimester, you do not want to think about food. Going more towards the negative side. Another very sad thing that we went through in the first trimester, and I think Tony suffered more than I did, was I could not stand Tony. Not him as a person, but more he couldn't touch me, because then I'd throw up. I couldn't smell him, because then I would want to throw up. It was like my body was angry with him for putting something in me. So be in bed and Tony would be like, oh, I tried to put his arm around me. I'm like,
don't touch me.
I was like, don't touch me, I'm going to throw up. And he was like, come on.
The favorite ones for me was the one day I was literally coming out of the shower.
I don't even remember that.
Dripping water. Dripping like I was drying myself up, and you're like, you stink. I'm like, I just showered.
I don't remember that.
So I do, because it was my feelings. So that one was tough. Maybe I should talk one day about the side of the spouse. Seeing it from the outside. That experience.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It was tough for me, because there were nights where I went to go cuddle him, and my body just would not. My body couldn't handle the scent. And it wasn't that he hadn't. Like, he showered twice a day. Like, I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So my sense of smell was so strong.
Yeah.
So
the hormones and all that.
Oh, the hormones. And can I just say one last thing, ladies? This is my piece of advice for you. Eat a lot of fiber and drink a bunch of water. Listen, Tony, you were there. You were there. Yeah, we had a really bad episode of constipation. And it was bad. Like, I've never had it that bad.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad and tough.
Oh, and by the way, if you're watching this and you've never gone through pregnancy, you're not supposed to have the laxative thing, the drink that they... I learned that after.
Oh, snap, for real?
Yeah, pregnant women are not supposed to have the laxative drinks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I forget who I was talking to, but I was like, oh, yeah, I had a really bad episode of constipation, and Tony got me, and they're like, why did you do that? And I'm like...
Oops, sorry.
And they're like, you're not supposed to have that when you're pregnant. And I was like, well... She's still alive, so it's okay.
Yeah. Thank God.
But yeah, no, it was really bad. I was stuck in the bathroom for like an hour. Nothing came out. I was crying. I was shaking because I was just trying so hard. I gave up. Tony went to CVS, got the laxative drink. I drank it. I went to lay down, still shaking, crying. Like, it felt like it was terrible. Like, I had chills and everything. And then it finally came out.
Yeah, and apparently it's part of that trimester.
Yeah.
And so it's not like an isolated case. It was not only you. Like, many
women go through it.
Women actually go through it. If you're watching this and you are pregnant or not in your first trimester, or you went through it, let us know in the comments if you also experienced that, or if you were one of the lucky ones that did not have to go through that.
Yeah. Something else that didn't. Oh, I recommend this. So I have always been that stubborn person. Well, I was fine with my primary care. And they always say, are you sure you don't want an OBGYN? And I'm like, can you do everything that they do? They're like, yeah, if you're not pregnant, yeah, we can pretty much handle everything you need. And I'm like, okay, then I'll just keep you. I did that with my primary care. And when I got pregnant, they were like, yay, congratulations, go find an OBGYN. And I was like, okay. So I called one place. They were booked full. I called another place, but they couldn't see me until like a month in. So we were already a month pregnant, and I still had to wait 4 more weeks to see the OBGYN.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
So when I first started getting the nausea and the morning sickness, my primary care did prescribe me some nausea medication, but it wasn't strong enough where it took away my symptoms, and she gave me like a 2-week supply. And remember, I just said I had to wait a month to see the OBGYN. So what was supposed to last 2 weeks, that I was supposed to take daily, the pill, I would just take the medication on the days that were the worst.
So would you advise women that do not have a OBGYN to get one as soon as possible?
Yes, and yes, because it's very necessary, and you don't want there to be any delays. Especially, I got lucky; my baby didn't have any serious complications. That there was a few scares, but we didn't have any complications.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a position where you have to wait longer, and then,
Yeah.
What if had I had an OBGYN earlier, maybe they would have caught this sooner. But yeah, overall, first trimester, it was very tough. I recommend all women to start their research if you haven't gotten pregnant. Even if you're planning to get pregnant, ask your friends, like, hey, what happens in the first trimester? What were the scary things? What were the fun things? Because everybody knows the fun things. The fun things that you see on YouTube is, oh, hey, look, I got this new shirt for my husband. Surprise, we're pregnant. Oh, hey, now I told my parents. Now I told my siblings. Now I told my best friends. But nobody tells you about all the physical changes that start happening in the first trimester. And in the first trimester, your belly doesn't even start growing, rapidly. It's crazy. So a few tips that I would leave you guys with is finding out you're pregnant is exciting, but be careful and just don't share it with the whole world.
Yeah.
Share it with the people you're most closest with, so that we pray that this doesn't happen to anybody, but if for some reason you do get a miscarriage,
then you don't have to go back and explain.
You don't have to explain it to so many people, and to the people you do explain it to, they make sure it's people who will actually wrap you in their arms and not go around gossiping about, oh my God, did you just hear Shirley had a miscarriage?
Yeah.
Choose your people wisely. Listen to your body. Listen to your body, because, again, when I was training, when I was doing my powerlifting, before I found out I was pregnant, I can feel the extreme fatigue. And I'm not hating on my coach, because he also didn't know. But there were times where I was like, I could feel my eyes blacking out because my body was just so tired and it couldn't handle all that weight. And I just had to get to the point where I'm like, I'm not doing this. If I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do lighter weights. Listen to your body. You know what's going on, and other people can't feel it. Be your own advocate. If you're tired, go to sleep. My naps lasted 2-3 hours. So they weren't really naps. They were like mini sleeping sessions. But it is what it is. Your body's exhausted. It's preparing for a whole new thing. Take your prenatals. Your hair's going to look beautiful. And your baby needs it your body needs it because your baby's sucking out all of your vitamins. And lastly, the most important, be selfish. It's about you. It's about your baby. Don't do something that's going to endanger you or your baby. And again, it's about you. Protect your heart, protect your emotions, protect your spirit.
Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Hit that like button. Bye.
Bye.